And welcome back, and we're now at part 3 of this week's RETCONVERSATIONS. So, new segment on the Shadow Gallery, specifically dealing with the DC New 52. Okay, so, Action Comics number 1. What can I say? First of all, controversy, stupid, it's done, let's get past it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to bleedingcool.com and some of the other comic sites, and you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm your worst nightmare. Really, Grant? Really? Is that one of the first lines of dialogue that you want to put into this Superboy's mouth? Because this is not Superman. It's not Superman. It's Superboy. It's a younger version of Superman. Again, this is, I guess, trying to follow in line with the Justice League thing, where it's like, okay, it's a younger version, but this, this guy is not 5 years younger. This guy is about 10 years younger than where Clark Kent is right now. So, forget that shit. Maybe it's like that he's an alien, and that's his naivete. He would say a line like, "I'm your worst nightmare." That he's just, because he got it from Earth culture or something like that. But I mean, he was raised on a fucking farm. So I would hope that somebody would, somebody taught him something, as opposed to just these really stupid, cheap, movie lines. This is not Superman. This is not anybody's idea of Superman. I don't know where this Superman came from, but I hate him. I'm going to be frank with you. I hate this Superman. I hate Grant Morrison's new take on Superman. Or his newer take. Because he was fucking brilliant with All-Star Superman. Why? Why did he change? Why did he go to this darker, edgier place where he's wearing like this, he seems like, he looks like a stupid kid running down the street with a t-shirt, rolled up work pants and boots. I mean, it's not, I get the idea. Okay, it's Grant Morrison. He's not trying to do a superhero comic. He wants it to be less iconic and more of, kind of a fresh take on the character. But it's awful. It's just bad. The most interesting character, of course, is Lex Luthor. Because a hero is only as good as his villain, and this villain is really good, but the hero still sucks. Because I'm a guy who, I love Superman, okay? I really do. Unabashedly, I love the character of Superman. I love that he's the guy that always does the right thing. And in here, we do see some of that, of course. We see him doing the right things, but he's doing it in, like, the stupidest way possible. And again, maybe this is supposed to be working to the naivete of the character, whatever. It's just, why in the fuck does Metropolis need street tanks? Okay? Were they just expecting? I mean, did Lex Luthor just all of a sudden put these into production just for this one alien being? That seems to be saving people left and right. Whatever. Yeah, I know the whole story. I know the whole Lex Superman thing. So, but I mean, tanks, really? I mean, and they would be out on the streets? I mean, what the hell is Metropolis? What's going on? That's what I can't understand. What's going on? I mean, why did they even bother? Honestly, why did they even bother? This is a totally useless renumbering. It's a totally worthless reboot. Grant Morrison does himself shame again after the abysmal outings of Batman R.I.P. and fucking The Final Crisis. I mean, you think he would have learned his lesson, but no, that just gave him more fuel to do more shit. And this is not coming from someone who just doesn't like reboots, okay? I don't mind them. But if they're done in a smart, sensible, respectful manner, that works. But if you totally fuck with the character, then you're headed for some pain. to me. Batgirl #1. This was easily the biggest disappointment of this week, which is not to say this is the worst book, because Action Comics #1 has that honor. But Gail Simone, you know, definitely one of my favorite writers at DC, definitely one of my favorite writers, period, working in comics right now. But I have to give her props, because this is, admittedly, this is the hardest character to do, because this is a straight-up continuation of where, you know, Barbara Gordon left off with Birds of Prey. She is, as she puts it, miraculously healed of her spinal injury that she suffered at the hands of the Joker in The Killing Joke, which people still to this day say is like the most sexist, you know, or most misogynistic comic of all time. I don't see that. I don't look at it that way. I just look at it as one of the best stories ever told in comics, even though Alan Moore himself says that it's his worst work. I respectfully disagree. But Alan Moore is also kind of known for being kind of a dick. But whatever. You know, so pulling off this kind of, okay, almost this, you know, Phoenix-like resurrection of Barbara Gordon as Batgirl, like I said, it's a tough thing to do. It's a tough thing to pull off. To have her come back, you know, free of her spinal injury, she's now back in the ass-kicking business, you know, that she's, you know, I mean, she was kicking ass before as Oracle, when she would go out there with her, you know, wheelchair batons and, you know, kick the living shit out of people. As she said, she does have great upper body strength in this. There are moments where, you know, because there's a lot of inner monologue here in this book, and it becomes, at some point, it gets, like, twisted. There's inner monologue, and then there's outer dialogue. And the inner monologue and outer dialogue seem to be, they kind of exchange each other. And I don't know if, you know, if Commissioner Gordon decided to take a trip to the salon to get his hair dyed red again, because as we've known, Commissioner Gordon for several years now, he has had, you know, gray hair or graying hair, or, you know, even, but, you know, when, to be fair, you know, he did have pretty much reddish hair throughout, you know, Snyder's detective run. So that's, it's a minor quibble, but it was just kind of weird. Like I said, I mean, you know, it's a controversial book. It's been really controversial because, you know, I think a lot of people were happy that there was a physically disabled person who was still being a hero, and now to have that disability taken away, it's difficult to deal with. It's clear also that in this kind of final showdown that she has with this villain, the Mirror, that she has a pretty serious case of post-traumatic stress, because the gun, you know, as she sees it that is being pointed at her, it seems to be pointing right at her, you know, first lumbar, which is exactly where she was hit before by the Joker. And the villains, also the villains of this book, they're a little twisted, but not quite twisted enough for Gail Simone. I like it when she does the really fucked up villains, and it seems like this. It just seems like this whole book is kind of Gail Simone light. She doesn't really put her full effort into it, so I was disappointed there. But like I said, it's still a decent book, maybe a 6 out of 10. But it just didn't get to that place for me that I needed it to go. That I really wanted it to go. Anyway, we're going to cut here, and we're going to come back with part 4, which I'm going to talk about the 2 best. And also, okay, well actually, I'm going to take a few minutes, not even a few minutes, just a little bit of your time, to talk about the one book that I didn't get digitally, and that's Hawk and Dove #1. I think there was another one, I can't remember what it is, but it was something that just kind of, I looked at and I'm like, I'm getting the print copy, so I'll just wait. Since this is in part being done by Rob Liefeld, which I believe, I'm pretty sure, is it? Did anybody read it? Did anybody out there who's watching this read it? Because I thought I saw Rob Liefeld's name somewhere on this, and that said to me, no. No, 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 nope, no way. Because I think that he's a horrible artist, and I think that he's a horrible writer. So he's, you know, he was one of those Johnny-come-latelys back in the 90s who made his career off of doing art that was like a poor man's Todd McFarlane. And, you know, the fact that he's doing The Infinite right now with Robert Kirkman, it honestly seems like it's kind of like a glory story for him, because I think he's realized, you know, somewhere deep down that he's just not that good and doesn't really have much to offer, but he'll work with, you know, who is easily, well, I won't say easily, but who I would say is Image's, of course, their best writer, and, you know, certainly Robert Kirkman is one of the best writers out there, period. Maybe the best. I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to you on that one, because there are some up-and-comers that are pretty fucking good. And, of course, you got, you know, Brubaker and Bendis and Miller and, you know, Mark Miller and, you know, obviously, you know, coming new, you know, kind of the new boys, you know, John Layman, Scott Snyder, Jeff Lemire, and coincidentally enough, we'll be talking about some of those people that I just mentioned in the next segment. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.